I had not been politically active until 2002 when President Bush came up with his preemptive attack strategy, and that just set alarm bells off in my mind saying, this isn't right, this does not sound like America. And so I started reading widely about the background of Iraq, about the Middle East, about what was going on here domestically. And the more I read, the more alarmed I got. So when I moved back to Lafayette in 2003, I resolved that I was going to get involved, and that's what I've done.
I'm supporting Mike Stagg for Congress because he is a leader, he is a fighter. He stands strong. I've seen him take on some people with very, very divergent thinking from his, and at the end of the discussion, they've asked him for a yard sign because he stands firm and he's well informed. He's very up to date. He's got all the information. He reads 3 or 4 newspapers a day. He's got the facts and figures. He's very much for the middle class. He's worried about the disappearance of the middle class, and I think that's extremely important at this time. And he wants to protect the Constitution, and I believe in the Constitution.
Mike Stagg for Congress. The reason why I'm supporting Mike Stagg for Congress is because I believe in the Constitution of the United States. I believe that it's every American duty to have representation in the Congress, and Mr. Mike Stagg comes the closest as a representative of Louisiana citizens in Congress.
Well, I think we need a change in a serious way in Congress, and I think Mike is the man to give it to us. We have the Republicans who have basically one-party rule. They are running up the national debt. They are getting us into foreign entanglements. They are making our society more and more unjust. And I think we need to go back to American values. You know, for all their talk on values, I think that they are just completely without them. It's only everything for profit, everything for people at the higher echelon to get more and more money. For what? So Mike, I think, has a positive response. I think he's a dynamo in terms of getting things done, and I think that even as a freshman congressman, that he will have a voice and he will be able to stand up for himself and for us. And I think that's important.
So I want to send Mike to represent me and my family in Congress this November 7th. I'm voting for Mike.
And that was Richard Warren with candidate Mike Stagg at the Clifton Chenier Center. Hang on for just a second. We're going to bring you a few more messages, then we'll be right back.
In the last century, Americans organized as our nation moved from a farm past to a factory present. Faced with gaping wealth disparities, corruption of our political process, destruction of nature, and a workforce unprepared for a changing economy, these leaders formed a new vision for democracy. Today we again see the dawn of a new era, from an assembly line past to an interconnected information future. And we must again rebuild our democratic community, one that stands for a world-class education, an economy that is both healthy and fair, a thriving natural environment, healthy people with accessible health care, a secure nation with international credibility, and working elections and engaged citizens that make all of this possible. Not bigger government, not smaller government, but better government. Not left, not right, but forward. The Democratic Party, America's party.
Women of Acadiana.
Well, our ancestors struggled hard, sometimes with their lives, in order to have the opportunity to vote.
For better education for your children, higher salaries for their teachers.
Don't just take it for granted. Don't stay home on Election Day. Go vote November 7th.
For health care for all of your family and for other Americans.
Vote November 7th.
Go to the polls and vote November 7th.
Remember, if you don't vote, you can't complain about what's going on.
Please vote.
Thanks.
And we are back. Last week, we were able to catch up with candidate Mike Stagg as he held an impromptu town hall meeting right here at the AOC studios. Here are some clips that we thought that you would find really important, and also we will, at the end, have the dates for you for when you'll be able to catch this town hall meeting in its entirety right here on AOC's Channel 15 and 16. So here's what we were able to capture for you.
Talk a little bit about the race first and why I got into it. The 7th District is traditionally a Democratic district in Louisiana, but 2 years ago, I think the Democratic Party blew it in the primary election, playing favorites of one Democrat over another that had, the actions had racial overtones that discouraged a significant part of the Democratic base in our district, and as a result, Democrats stayed home in the runoff, and a Republican got elected to this seat. And I think that we can take this district back. I'm the only Democrat in this race. We have an incumbent who I believe has not served the interests of the district, and I believe the conditions are right for us to take this seat back, and that's why I got into this race. What really started me looking at this race was his first vote in Congress. On his first day in office in 2005, he cast a vote to change the House ethics rules, which have been in place for over a century. And that vote was done to protect Tom DeLay. And so I got curious about that because he'd run in 2004 saying he wasn't part of the old corruption. I looked at his campaign finance report from 2004 and saw that he'd received $15,000 from Tom DeLay's PAC, and shortly after that vote he got another $10,000. And what you see if you look at his campaign finance reports is he's heavily dependent on the special interest money, political action committee money, money from the Republican leadership, and his votes track the money. 96% of his votes have been in support of the Republican leadership in the House. 96%. 85% of his votes have supported the Bush administration. I don't care where you're from. That is not consistent with the interests of our district. This is not if it is a conservative district, it's certainly not a district that 96% of the times is in line with the interests of the Republican House. So why do I want to run? I believe that fundamentally there's a problem in our country, and it stems from the fact that big money has driven out the voices of ordinary people from politics. And when I got into this race, one of the major tenets of it was that I would not accept PAC money. And this special interest money has really permeated the process, particularly in the last 6 years, with the explosion of the K Street lobby effort that was led by the Republicans. The number of lobbyists in Washington has doubled. They spend something like $200 million a day trying to influence the 535 members of the House and the Senate. We have got to get big money out of politics. I believe campaigns should be publicly financed. Federal election campaigns should be publicly financed so that campaigns are about ideas and issues and not about who can raise the most money. I think what we have seen also is that this PAC money, in addition to buying influence, buys silence. What we've seen in the last couple of weeks with this Foley scandal involving these pages in the House is that the Republican leadership, again, who have funded not only Congressman Boustany's campaign but other campaigns, have bought the silence of Republicans in the House who might have been outraged by the act but will not call on their leadership to step down when they were clearly involved in the cover-up of a criminal act. And that silence, I believe, comes directly from the money that they were given from the PACs of those leaders. So getting big money out of politics is essential, I believe, to restoring the voices of ordinary people in our democratic process. The other thing I believe is that American troops should be out of Iraq by the end of 2007. We got into this war based on a series of lies, manipulated intelligence, and we are now close to $500 billion into the war with no end in sight. In fact, the Pentagon announced, it was revealed last night, they're planning on troops through 2010. Congress has provided no oversight. We have already been in Iraq longer than we were in Europe in World War II. And there has yet to be a single congressional hearing about the conduct of the war, the plan for the war, and what we're doing there. Billions of dollars in cost overrun from contractors who are in business in Iraq, supposedly supporting the war effort. They're the only people making out in this war. Iraqis aren't doing well. The American Army is not doing well. Our troops aren't doing well. But these people, the Halliburtons, the KBRs, CACI, other companies like that, are making billions in profits and not delivering the services they were contracted for, and no congressional investigation. Again, the Republican Congress has abrogated its constitutional responsibility to provide oversight. And that has to change. The only way that changes is if we get Democrats elected to the House. I believe also that if you work for a living in the United States, you should not live in poverty. I think we ought to have an immediate increase in the minimum wage, or at least $2 an hour, and there's been a lot of debate of whether that's a wise thing or not. The minimum wage in the United States hasn't been raised in over 10 years. Congress has given itself 3 raises, and yesterday a group of 650 economists came out with a paper that said it's time to raise the minimum wage at least $1. They say up to $2.50 was the range they provided, and that it should be indexed to inflation. because, again, what the minimum wage buys right now, if you work 40 hours a week for the minimum wage in this country, over the course of a year, you're going to make $10,700. I mean, that's a pathetic amount of money. This is hardworking people. We have made a concerted effort to get people off of welfare, but into what? Jobs that pay $5.15 an hour, $5.71 an hour, and what are you going to make? You're going to put them really back at the poverty level. So if you work for a living, you should not live in poverty. The other plank of my platform is that we should join the rest of the industrialized world and have a single-payer health plan. We are the only industrialized nation in the world that doesn't have a national health plan, and yet our corporations, the General Motors and Fords of the world, our other industrial corporations, compete globally with companies from countries where health care and pensions are subsidized. General Motors makes cars, and the first $1,700 of every vehicle that you pay for when you buy from General Motors goes to cover health benefits and pensions. The joke is that General Motors is a health insurance plan that finances its way by selling cars. But the fact is that we are the only industrialized country that lives like this. We pay more than double the per capita amount on health care than any other country in the world, close to $6,000 a year. The outcomes of health care in the United States, according to the World Health Organization, rank 37th. We're not getting our money's worth. And the facts are that there are almost 50 million Americans who can't afford health insurance. They are uninsured. And that drives up the cost of insurance because many of them can't pay for that care once they're forced to get it. But the facts remain that there is a massive private, for-profit element in health care that engages in fraud and is allowed to do this, and that drives up the cost of health care. And that is a far more serious contributor to this imbalance than whatever fraud individuals might be able to perpetrate in this system. You go down the list of Tenet Healthcare, Health South, other companies like this that have made substantial profits by really scamming the Medicare program, for one, and we need to get that profit. We need to get that element out of the system and make this system available to everyone. And the rap on single-payer health plans is that you ration health care. We're rationing health care now, but we're rationing it by cost, not by access. And every American should be treated with dignity. That begins with a good paying job that pays a living wage, and every American should have access to health care, and it should not just be available either if you're in dire poverty or you're old or if the condition has just gotten so bad that you're forced to get the care. Over half the bankruptcies in the United States stem from an illness in the family, even among people with insurance. So we have got to get health care under control, and there are ample models of how to do this, both in the country and around the world. And we need to join the rest of the civilized world, the industrialized world, and go to a single-payer health plan. It will be good for corporations because they can move that burden off their balance sheets. It will be good for every American because they can improve the quality of their health. They can get preventative care without having to just allow their health to deteriorate until it reaches a serious condition. And I think it will be good for the spirit of the country because what we have right now, we live in an era of basically you're on your own. It's no longer any sense of a common cause or a common good. It's one class against another. We are divided that way, and we need to go back to the idea that we are all in this together, and a sense of commonality and a sense of common purpose. And we had that for a brief moment after 9/11, but clearly the whole war on terrorism was seen and used as a wedge issue, and an opportunity was squandered. And I think that we pay a price for that as a nation, and that by returning to the idea that we're all in this together, by making benefits, the wealth and bounty of our country available to all citizens, I think that's a way that we could restore that spirit of unity that we need as a country to face the challenges ahead. So the last plank of my platform that I want to talk about deals with energy independence. And we live in an era where there's ample evidence about global warming, and we've had they found evidence in the Arctic that we have more carbon in the atmosphere now than has been in 800,000 years, and we have ample evidence of the two storms that devastated our coast last year that storms are getting bigger and more powerful and more devastating. And you know, we are stuck in a war in the Middle East and Iraq right now. We have troops in over 100 countries, and a lot of it is tied to the fact that we are chasing oil. And, you know, we need to break our dependency on foreign oil. We need to do it in an aggressive kind of way, the same way that John Kennedy challenged the country in the 60s to go to the moon. Creating energy independence for this country should be every bit as vital and as energetic a pursuit as that was 40 years ago. And so I believe that we ought to embark on a program of breaking our dependence on foreign oil, breaking our dependence on carbon, unleash innovation in our country. You know, it would be good in our district because we know how to grow a lot of stuff that could be used for fuel. Sugarcane, rice, other products. We have a lot of biomass material in our state, forest products. We know how to grow, we know how to refine, we know how to produce. All those things could be good for us. So energy independence would be good for our economy, it would be good for the environment, but it would be great for our foreign policy because then we could only be involved in those places where we really feel there's a national interest. Not because somebody has their foot on our throat or the oil spigot, one or the other. We would have the freedom then to act in the interest that our forefathers laid out for us, which was, you know, avoiding foreign entanglements if at all possible. And we would then be free to act when we chose to act. I think that what we have now is an administration that has, you know, this is actually their energy policy. They met and developed this policy in the early part of this decade. They wanted higher fuel prices. The oil companies are profiting. We are stuck in wars in the Middle East. We have controversies around the world with other oil-producing nations. And, you know, the future of the country, I believe, depends on us being able to extricate ourselves from those things and have the freedom then to identify what our national interests truly are and then be able to act upon them. So restoring congressional authority and responsibility, getting big money out of politics, enabling people to have a living wage, health care and access to affordable health care for every American, and energy independence are the major planks that I'm running on. And these are the issues that I'm bringing out to the people of the district, and I think this is the basis of a successful campaign. And I'll be happy to take your questions.
Okay, now we're going to go ahead and open it up to questions in the audience. Who would like to have a question for the candidate?
Mr. Stagg, I would like to know when there will be a debate between you and Mr. Charles Bustan. We're interested in hearing what he has to say as well, and we want to know what's going on. That's my question.
Well, thank you for the question. I issued we sent a fax to Congressman Bustani's office, a letter. We faxed a letter to his office a little over a week ago, challenging him to a series of 4 single-issue debates across the district that would give the people of the district an opportunity to hear our views on the issues, to ask questions about the issues. The topics that I proposed were foreign policy, energy policy, health care and Social Security, and the economy. He hasn't responded. He appeared on KVOL a couple of days after that, and I called in and asked him, and he, you know, very angrily said that, you know, he books his events 4 weeks in advance, and that because we hadn't asked earlier, he would not be able to schedule a debate. And it was funny though that a caller called in the station and asked, and found out that in fact his appearance on that program had not been scheduled 4 weeks in advance. So he's got more flexibility in the schedule than maybe he wants us to know. So I believe the people want a debate, and we have encouraged social and civic organizations to propose debates, and we'll happily accept. I'll meet him anywhere, anytime to debate, and I think the larger the audience, the better. And you know, I think there are ample issues to debate. He's only a freshman congressman. He hasn't taken very high profile in anything. He's been a loyal supporter of the Bush administration, and I think people have questions that deserve answers.
And that was candidate Mike Stagg as he had a town hall meeting. And guess what, folks? That's yet another Blue Mondays for us. The time flies, doesn't it? Blue Mondays is where we take a look at national, state, and local news through a progressive perspective each and every single Monday night on AOC Channel 15. You'll want to make sure that you tune in each and every week to join us here. Next week, we will have more news and information for you just in time or just before the elections. Also, Tomorrow morning, set your alarm about 5 minutes early, curl up with a cup of coffee in front of your computer, and click on over to theadvertiser.com. There you'll be able to see my weekly column called The Left Blog. There I take a look at different issues that are facing us here in Acadiana and also on a national stage, and give you my thoughts and opinions as to how we are doing with those issues. So you won't want to miss that either. If you are catching this show on a rerun or maybe just tuned in a little bit late, you can catch this entire episode through our website at LafayetteDemocrats.org. There you'll be able to click through, and you'll also be able to see some of our older shows. We are now being featured on YouTube. Many of the kids out there probably heard of YouTube. Well, it seems to be blowing up, and we're able to have our entire shows there for all of the world to see. So hopefully you'll click on over there and drop us a note. Let us know what you think and how we are doing over here at Blue Mondays. Next week we will have a lot more information for you, and that'll be Monday nights at 9 p.m. right here on AOC Channel 15. Until then, take care of yourselves. Good night.